Welcome, everyone. Okay. All right. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. All right. Tonight we have a great topic that we're going to talk about. And I'm not sure if you guys have experienced this or not, but I find it is something that I constantly deal with and have to work at. And so I think this is something that a lot of business owners have to deal with, whether they know it or not. And maybe it's not specifically you that has to deal with this, but I can promise you that there are people on your team that are struggling with this very topic. So, tonight's topic is dealing with self criticism and how that affects your happiness and your actual business. And so, tonight, that's what we're going to be diving in a little bit deeper. I'll be sharing my experience, strength, and hope. Hey, Chris, good to see you. Of things that I have been through and how I've been able to transform those things and shift from being in that negative space to being in a happier place. And so these are all tools that I use myself. I've done a lot of therapy over the years, and I've also done a lot of change management in my corporate job when I was in transport and logistics. And so understanding how to navigate emotions and how to change those and move those so that you can be more productive is where my strength and my skill sets are. So this is what I share with you guys in hopes that you're able to take something that I share here tonight, apply it to your own life, your own business, and help not only yourself, but those that are around you. Because when we start to change, when we start to heal ourselves, then we have a greater impact on the world. And for those of you that are first time joining me, my name is Tina. I am a happiness coach. I do have a coaching program that's structured for business owners. So if you like what you're hearing here, then if you want to continue to work with me or look at what it would look like to work with me, oh man, I need some tea, then we can talk about that. We'll set up a little coffee chat or tea. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the baking business. And it kind of ties in a little bit here too, because as you can see, I've got some of my artwork here. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll also see thumbnails with my artwork that I do. And artwork is part of healing therapy that I do for myself. And then, of course, as any entrepreneur would, you turn your hobbies into a business as well. So there's that's just how it goes with us for some reason. That it's always looking for ways to make money. Hey, Abia, welcome. Wow, okay, we got some people from overseas. We got somebody from Pakistan on Facebook here. Where's everybody on TikTok? Yeah, you can type that in the chat. So, as I was going through, so we've got the creative side, and that's what most business owners, entrepreneurs, they love that creative side that they can create a business. They use their skills at being able to tap in. London, Ontario. Nice, Chris. All right. So I had a cake decorating business, and that was part of a side hustle while I was in transport logistics. So I've always had a full-time job and something else. I've always had a side hustle. Even like I said, I'll turn my hobbies into a business. That's just how it goes for me. So I had started cake decorating, and this was back when I was turning 40. I was feeling a little bit down about turning 40, and so I thought, you know what, I'm going to do something special for my birthday. And I decided, since I didn't get one of those fancy wedding cakes with the fondant and stuff, because I felt that was an unnecessary expense, and I didn't really like cake anyway. And it's funny because there were a couple of girls at the office that I was working at. They were taking a cake decorating course, and I was just like, why would you even like it? That didn't make sense to me. One, because at the time, I my idea of fun was like spreadsheets. I didn't do a lot of fun things. I like to work. a lot. And so doing cake decorating didn't make sense because A, I wasn't a big person on cake. I didn't really enjoy it very much eating it. I always felt it was too sweet. But some of that was actual conditioning from growing up because my mom always said that about cake. Oh, it's too sweet. Oh, it's sickly sweet. And so we get these little cues, these little messages as we're growing up, and either we adopt those thought process, those ways of thinking and those beliefs, and we adopt those as our own, or sometimes we will go the complete opposite. And that is often I don't want to say it's a trauma response, but that's a pretty normal conditioning response. So either you, if you can't beat them, join them kind of thing. So cake decorating. So it didn't really make sense. So when I turned 40, I thought, I couldn't think of what I wanted for my birthday. So I started looking at cakes, and I found a local cake decorator to make the cake and everything. And I wanted like ladybugs and daisies and stuff like that. And I thought, okay, and I was looking up all kinds of pictures online of different cakes. And just looking at the cakes, I kind of fell in love with the artwork around them. And I was just like, wow, they're just like so beautiful. So I ordered the cake. I got the cake. She did a great job at it. And we got some really like unique flavors and everything. Although it it wasn't quite what I was thinking. So even though I had described it, even though I had explained what I wanted, it just didn't quite um, hit. So, and after my birthday, I kept looking at cakes because I thought they were really, really pretty. Right? Have you heard of Leeds Career Development Center? No, no, I haven't. Why do you ask that? So, um, so going through this, I kept looking at the cakes and everything, and I was like, wow, these are really cool. And I tried to sign up for some cake decorating courses at Michael's, and every time I tried to do that, they kept saying, oh, they're full, you'll have to wait till the next one, it's about 6 weeks out. And I was just like, well, that's no good. So I started looking up different things online, and I started looking up YouTube videos, I started looking up uh, recipes, all that kind of stuff. And because of that, I started just trying a few different things. So I started by looking up a few different things and then trying to see if I can actually do those things. So what ended up happening is I made a cake for a friend's dinner. They invited us over for dinner. That was a complete and epic fail. So usually when I'm first trying something, I recognize this pattern that I do this complete belly flop of an epic fail on that first try. It's kind of like a way of getting the nerves out of the way. And then after that, I'm usually pretty good because it can't get worse, right? Not that I challenge the universe because the universe will say, here, hold my beer, and it'll show me just how bad it can get. So I don't never challenge the universe in that way. So, and so I just kept kind of trying different things, and oh, that's good. That's good, Chris. So I kept trying different things that were helping me, and I was able to just start doing things. And I learned from the mistakes that I had made. So like the first cake that I had made, I put like way too much butter in, and I packed in the flour as if it was like brown sugar, and that's not how you're supposed to measure it. So I had mismeasured, but I made it still was edible, right? So it was just a cake that had the consistency of shortbread. And so because of that, I kept reading the recipes. I figured out what I had made the mistake on, and I adjusted with those things. So instead of being, yeah, these are all my paintings as well. Yes, thank you. So because of that, I was like, and the funny thing is, I've never considered myself as artistic. I was the logical one. I was not the creative one, and I was always um, told that I was cold and unfeeling and all of that kind of stuff, which is really funny because people who know me in my later years, after I've done some healing and recovery, they see me as very sensitive, which is really funny because it took me a lot to even learn how to do that. Thank you so much for the rose, by the way. So, in learning these different things, I instead of beating up on myself, I learned to make slight corrections, and I learned something and I implemented right away. And that, I think, is one of the key things at being really successful. It's not learning a whole bunch of stuff and then you get so overwhelmed that you don't actually do anything with it. But if you learn something and then you implement it right away, that is the better way to actually build your skills and keep moving forward with those kind of things. And you tend to be a lot less self-critical when you're doing that because it becomes more of like an agile kind of training where you take something small, you implement it, you test it, did that work, you get feedback, and then you kind of keep doing those loops. And so those ones, you're allowed to build on that a lot faster. And you don't have to invest a whole ton of energy only to find out something didn't work. And it's really difficult to make those corrections and pivots. So, kind of learning things in this manner is one of the ways that I prevent the self criticism because if I kind of do a whole bunch and then I forget to implement or I've kind of moved past that, honestly. So, excuse me. I'm still kind of, I had COVID a couple of weeks ago, so every once in a while I kind of start getting a bit congested. So I apologize for coughing and stuff like that. But so in this cake decorating business, one of the things I started to do is I would experiment and then I bring stuff in. So into work. So like the first fondant cake I made was for a work potluck. And I brought it in and everybody was so excited. They were like, "Wow, we can't believe that you made this." And all I was doing was I was just experimenting, seeing if I could make a couple of roses, and I did the company logo in fondant and I kind of did it in that way. To me, as I'm looking at the cake, I can see all of the perfect imperfections. I can see the little dots of where the fondant wasn't perfectly smooth. There were a couple of wrinkles. Some of the lettering was a little bit uneven. Some was a little bit thick because I didn't have any cutters, so I had to do this all by hand. And like I didn't have the right tools to make it like smooth and professional, but everybody was like really blown away by it and they really loved the taste of the cake because I learned from my mistakes on how to make the cakes. And so I did this really delicious chocolate orange cake and all that kind of stuff. And again, I wasn't a big cake person, so it was kind of like, well, that was fun. That was a one-off kind of thing. And then I kept working at that because somebody in the office said, "Well, I love cake. If you want to make a cake so that you can practice, then I'll be happy to buy them from you." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I started doing it that way, and it's funny because every time I made a cake, I looked at it and I hated the way it looked almost every time. I would beat myself up because it didn't turn out the way that I wanted. But if I gave myself enough space and time, if I could take a step back and detach from my expectations of how I thought things were supposed to go, then I was able to look at it a lot more clearly and more objectively because the emotions and the attachment that I had on the expectations of how it was supposed to be, I had enough space between that to see it now more logically, more objectively without such harsh criticism, right? Because one of the downsides of having a great imagination is that I saw and envisioned something different than what was actually produced. And I think this happens a lot of times, whether it's a cake decorating business or any project that I've ever been on in business. Um, we set our goals, we set our targets, and then a lot of times they don't always pan out the way that we think. There's always challenges and problems that come up that we weren't anticipating, that there's wrinkles and flies in the ointment and all that kind of stuff that comes up that we weren't anticipating. And even with our best planning, we still have to be able to manage those challenges that come up without being overly critical of ourselves or being overly critical of our team. Because when we do that and we beat ourselves up or we beat our team up, then it is not actually productive or constructive. Yes, there's ways to give good feedback, and but we always have to come at it from a perspective of assuming that everybody that is there actually wants to do a good job. Even when I was making the cakes, I wanted to do a really good job. I really wanted to make sure my customers were happy with the cakes that I was producing for them, because these were their special events for their family members, whether it was a baptism or a christening or a baby shower or a wedding cake. Like, these were all really important milestone events, right? That I was making these cakes for. So I took that to heart. Like, I took that as a serious thing and I put everything that I could into it. So I made all of my cakes from scratch. And there were times that I had made mistakes or there were things that I wasn't able to do. But when I was able to take that step back, look at it, I could see it much more objectively. And I think that's something that we all need to do in business, and in our personal lives too, is to kind of take a look and see, okay, well, that didn't turn out exactly how I wanted, but what can I actually learn from this? What could I do differently? And our ability to be able to take the responsibility, and I don't want to harp on it like you hear a lot online. It's like, oh, you got to take ownership and you got to, you know, it's your fault, it's on you, you got to take responsibility and ownership. And it's like, okay, stop beating a dead horse. It's like, for somebody who is heavy on the self criticism, it's like, I don't need help with taking accountability. I need help occasionally looking at what is right. And so, learning that skill of looking at what is right and building that confidence within yourself and building that happiness within yourself of kind of going, okay, what is it that I missed here? What could I have done better? And I think if we always take that approach in anything that's going on in business, of first of all, the assumption of that everybody wanted